All right, folks. Gee, I kind of say the same thing done all the time, but I suppose we could pretend it's a warm and homely introduction. But anyway, new game, Strike at a Heron, the approach to Stalingrad, August, September 1942. Here you see the entire map, two map sheets, and on a quick put together, look how well they fit together. And this was just a real quick so they would fit with my magnets here. I'm kind of impressed by that, having had some games lately that do not mesh up. So, uh, I don't know perhaps if this is fully a correct titling. I'm not fussing about it, but it's more kind of a, is it an approach? Is it a bold strike that if coupled with Hoth, who's maneuvering down here in the south. See my cup of tea? Down here somewhere in the south, would isolate Stalingrad and lead to an early seizure of the city. So, but, I can live with it being called approach. And what's interesting, Moltke's dictum that no plan survives first contact is very true here. I would actually think if I was going to label this, and someone asked me, I would call this phase 2 of the Kalash battle campaigns, but that's not really very, doesn't roll off the tongue for sales, now does it? I know that for myself, I don't have any other game, and I can't think of any other game that covers this period. And at first, when I saw this, I went, wow, they're really nitpicking or trying to conjure up something. And when I started reading up on it, and I vaguely recall this strike to the Volga, and when I read the synopsis on it on the ATO page, said, oh, got to order this one, and ordered it right away. There's not even a question. Now the map here, a helicopter, that's probably a medvac. 22 hexes, that's it. You'd think it's going to be 2 maps here, but nope, it's 22 hexes across. And these are roads, or such passes for roads in. Now, I am not fond, and I'm coming in here, of the bullseyes for cities. They look like the target icon. The only thing of consequence on the map is the turn record track here, and this numeric track, which tracks supplies and victory point, and if you use the more complex ammo and fuel, it tracks those. So, very simple, performative map here. Now, and there's also in the respective corners like boxes, German units, Soviet units down in this corner. So, I like the blue shading of the Volga here that kind of depicts movement. Dislike, I'm not a fan of at all of this mustard yellow for Stalingrad. Now what's interesting, it shows up much more distinctly on my phone than it does on the map, but I don't know if they were gone for an old-time faded look or what, but I'd rather have the inner works of Stalingrad a little more emboldened. It just, I'm sorry, it didn't do anything for me on that. Now, unlike GMT's 43, Italy 43, where only 2/3 of the map perhaps was in play, almost everything here is in play. Little piece over here isn't, and the Volga and the islands over here, that's it. Now I had to wonder, almost occurred to me immediately, was Perry Moore getting ready to do, the Haas Drive. Now just a moment, I forgot to get the the counters to the game. I'd done that, but Miss Katie had lost her glasses, so I got called away and lost a little focus. Now let me get the counters out to the game here. I rather like the counters. The only thing I found fussy was on the Soviet pink is maybe sometimes a little hard to see on some things, but across the board, and by God, they have T-70 tanks in the Soviet tanks, and we've got PK2s. So I think the counters get a plus. Most of the Soviet counters are 2 steps, which is a surprise at this point in the war. So I think the counters truly get a plus. And, oh yeah, I forgot to note, there are martyrs. Look at that. There are martyrs in the counters. So, good job on the counters by these folks. The rules sure seemed okay to me on the first blush. What I liked about the rules, let me toss the counters back here. What I liked about the rules, in particular, the designer notes in the back, well, they're superb, folks. The designer notes on page 15, the 18th part of the rules, are simply superb. I think this is a very well-designed cover. Very easy to read. You've got the content notes there. Easy to read table of contents. 16 pages, but really 10 pages to digest as far as I'm concerned. Now, gameplay, my suppositions. Well, before we get to that, we need to talk about some of the downloads from Board Game Geek that make gameplay easier. You have the supply diagram, and you have the sequence of play. Both of these, I think, are mandatory downloads from Board Game Geek. They turn the game into something much more playable in my mind. This game has more than a passing nod to logistics. You could do the simple supply points, or you could do the ammo and fuel. So do you want to play more logistician, or do you want to focus more just on the combat side? But what many of you already know, the summer of '42 was a logistician's nightmare for the Germans. Now, more Soviet Army activation in the game. There's a slight little error on it. He says the rules say to roll 2d6. They actually meant 1. The table says 1 for Soviet activation army. But it seems to me, regardless of that, simply spot on. It creates more C2 friction that applied to the Soviets right then in the initial stages of the Battle of Stalingrad, where turmoil ruled and was often at the forefront of many things. Now, looking at the CRT, oh my God, it's going to make your head spin at first look, because you're just going, huh? Only goes up to 2-1? Really? And different kind of combat results from, eliminates 1 unit, defender routed, defender retreats a number of hexes, attacker disorganized. Okay, but there's more notes in his notes, and as Glantz, House, and Satano also all note, a number of these German units were anything but robust. Rather than fool with a lot of counters, the CRT is, I think, a nice design for effect that enables more wildness to happen in the game. Again, it's reflective of this game's time period. Well, it is to me. I don't think the game opens any new vistas or is that type of fresh, which often becomes exasperating. It just strikes me right off as a solid game on a different topic, because this, as far as I know, is an undergame topic. Instead, I think it's a solid framework with a pleasing enough map for this rather ignored but critical snippet of the Stalingrad campaign. Zones of control. While Soviets are stuck. Yeah, don't move. You get one in, one you only move out upon a result. The Germans can infiltrate one hex and then they have to stop. Can't like infiltrate out of a zone of control to a blank area and continue to move. No, you move one and then you're done. I like the fact of his true quality ratings from Alpha to Bravo to Charlie that will determine different kind of impacts on combat in terms of modifiers. Stacking, Soviets are screwed. One unit. One unit. Good luck with that. And the Germans, they could have up to 2 battalions, 1 battalion and 3 companies, or a regiment. So there you have it, folks. New game from ATO. I will talk to you in a bit about books because I always talk about books and possible readings for this. So we'll be back very shortly. Thank you.